then next up, I'm going to teach you a trick for peeling carrots. If you ain't highborn and you don't have yourself a vegetable peeler, you can just use the sharp edge of your knife and just watch those carrots jump out of their skin. Then we're going to cut these into nice big chunks. You don't want them breaking down in the stew gun. There you have it, the basic vegetable. If you want to be a real fancy boy about it, you can add some rough chopped garlic and maybe some herbs like a bay leaf or a thyme. I personally don't give a damn, but I figure this is what Babbage would have done. And then it's time to get to work on our meat. First up, we got the hindquarters of a white-tailed deer. Gotta cut her into appropriate stew-sized chunks. Then next up, we had ourselves a cottontail rabbit, which is admittedly a little frozen. I know that's not exactly period appropriate, but the damn thing just wouldn't defrost. In the end, it actually helped make it a little bit easier to chop up into little stew-sized pieces. I won't keep the legs in there. I think that's gonna add a little bit of flavor. But now it's on to the main event. Genuine bear meat. Now, bear meat is regarded as pretty greasy, so we want to get rid of as much fat as possible. But don't throw that fat away, because we're going to be rendering some of it out to brown up the meat in the stew pot. Anyway, with that, I think I gotta stop doing this, because it's really hell on my throat. And slowly but surely, return back to the 21st century. Okay, so anyway, we're setting up a heavy Dutch oven over our fire. Then we're stoking the fire a bit because we want it to be super hot for this stage because we're going to sear up our meat. Now we use a little bit of water to make sure that our pan is spitting hot, and it is. So now is the perfect time to utilize our bear fat. We're going to add it to the hot pan, letting it sizzle and crackle for about 15 minutes until we've rendered out maybe a quarter cup of liquid fat, eagerly awaiting the reception of our meat. But before those flavors join the party, we've got to dig out our fat scraps and perform a little prep work on our meat. We're going to combine them all together in a Dutch oven or a bowl if it's 2018. Bowls are a thing, and we're going to season them generously with kosher salt and freshly ground pepper. Don't worry, I pre-ground this stuff before I left home. And
Well, bowls are probably a thing back then.
we want this to form a gummy
Yeah, I think they were. Bowls are definitely a thing back then. Like, I think they were even a thing before plates.
and then lay it down in a single layer.
Maybe,
Getting
anyway.
both color and flavor on the meat. And guess what else we're doing? That's right, fond. I don't know what fond is, but this Babish fella's really got a hard on for it. Arthur, Jill, this is a family shop. Anyway, we're doing this in 2 batches so we can make sure that all the meat is well browned. But this is optional. If you only brown half the meat, you're still going to get a ton of flavor. Either way, once everybody's browned and happy, take a look at that stuff that we got on the bottom of the pot. Arthur's right. I am totally hardcore for fond. And just like most stews, now is the time that we add our onions, give them a little stir. We're just sweating these onions, which means that we want them to become translucent around the edges and maybe pick up a little color. Once they have, we're adding the chopped garlic and celery and just sauteing for another minute until fragrant. And then finally, the highlight of my day, it's time to deglaze. And if you've watched this show at all, you must know by now that we're going to scrape up all that good stuff off the bottom of the pot. Then we're going to bring back our 3 different kinds of wild game to the party, and all these flavors are meant to really get to know each other like become best friends. The stew in the game looks red in color, which to me says Brunswick stew. A stew that has a base of water or beef broth and crushed tomatoes. According to this loving tribute, the first ever Brunswick stew was made in 1898, and the game is set in 1899. So Pearson was kind of a trendsetter. So along with these 3 bay leaves, we probably added 2 cups of crushed tomatoes and about 4 cups of beef broth. And now we just gotta let it stew for about an hour. This is a good time to sit down and sort of reflect on the great questions in life. Like, why does almost all bear meat contain trichinosis? That is a good question, and it's true. Most bear meat contains trichinosis parasites, but all we have to do is cook the meat above 145 degrees Fahrenheit, which we are going well above and beyond. Now, with 30 minutes to go, we are adding the potatoes and carrots. We gotta let this stew for 30 more minutes and maybe find a more structurally sound log on which to sit and wait until the carrots and potatoes are nice and tender and your stew has taken on a very stew-like quality. And there it is, venison, rabbit, and bear stew. It even looks like the one in the game, even though I recognize that there were mushrooms in the one in the game, and I've got the mushrooms, so sorry. But let's talk about the meat. The venison was from Colorado deer, so probably feeding on grain, and thus they weren't that gamey. And then the bear was like a sweeter version of the venison, not at all greasy like it is often described, because we removed most of the fat. And not only did the rabbit taste like chicken, it looked like chicken. Overall, it was a pretty good stew. I mean, it's essentially a recipe dating from 1899. It is basic, wholesome, filling food that does the best that it can, with a meat as tricky as wild game. And it might not have joined my clean plate club, but let's ask Arthur. Ravisher is city boy and it's turkey soft. The only thing I don't like about the stew is that Pearson makes it.
The only thing I don't like about the stew is that Pearson makes it. Bone broth.
Craving new ranch recipes? I'm Andrew Ray from Binging with Babish, and we are bringing bold flavors to your kitchen. Watch on youtube.com/Hidden Valley Ranch.
Can I interest you in anything?
Bone broth for the little one.
Oh, well, you're in luck. I just took down a Gringer, so there's plenty. Can I interest you in a porringer of broth as well?
Just the one.
Just Baby Yoda drinking his broth.
You want some soup? Hey, what's
Want
up,
some
guys?
soup?
Welcome back to Binging with Babish. For this week, we're taking a look at the bone broth from The Mandalorian, for which we're going to need some bones. Now, unfortunately, I've been able to find out much more on what Gringer is outside of the Star Wars Wikipedia, so we're just going to make a nice, simple
Wikipedia.
bone broth from beef bones. And speaking of things that are nice and simple, today's sponsor is Trade Coffee, a personalized coffee subscription service of which I am a huge fan. They've got this really cool coffee personalization quiz that picks the perfect coffee rotation for you from a variety of the nation's best roasters. And now I have partnered with Trade Coffee for a magic ticket sweeps, where you can win a trip for two to New York, a tour of my studio, coffee with me, and an insider roaster tour. More details on that at the end of the episode. For now, we've got a bone to pick, so to speak. You don't have to do this, but I personally like to clean all the marrow out of the bones that I can. I find that it gives the broth kind of an off, metallic taste, but no matter what you do with your marrow, we're going to arrange the bones on racks set in red baking sheets, drizzle with a little bit of oil to assist in browning, and roast these guys at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 45 minutes to 1 hour until they're deeply brown and have given up much of their fat. This is also both going to darken the color of the broth and deepen its flavor. All in all, I've got about 10 pounds of bones here for 2 batches of broth. What, about a pound of bones per quart of water. And in addition to repeatedly doing this hand gesture, you're going to want some aromatic vegetables. All the usual stock and suspects will suffice, but I'm also going to add a leek, which have notoriously dirty interiors, so I'm going to rinse this out thoroughly, every single layer, chop off the bits at the end so they will more easily fit in the pot, and that's pretty much it. The only other thing you're going to need is, of course, a big old stock pot. The bigger and narrower, the better. You're going to want to make a big batch of this stuff, and you're going to want it to evaporate as little as possible. So we're just dropping in all of our aromatic, no more air chopping stuff today. But I'm also going to drop in a halved head of garlic, a handful of black peppercorns, a couple dried or preferably fresh bay leaves, and of course our quote-unquote Gringer bones, as many as can comfortably fit in the pot. By the way, make sure you're using high-quality bones from a butcher you trust, or at least from a Gringer that you've taken down yourself. So the next step, as you might imagine, is to cover these bones with water and commence the cooking. The one essential ingredient we must add is apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons worth, which is going to act as a solvent to pull calcium and other delicious, nutritious minerals out of our bones. And now it's time to bring this mixture to and keep it at a bare simmer. As the old French proverb goes, to make a good soup, the pot must only simmer or smile. Not really sure what that means, but during the first hour of cooking, we're going to skim off any scum that floats to the top of the broth, which isn't scum at all. It's just denatured proteins, which are harmless and flavorless, but they can make the broth go cloudy. And now for the easiest / hardest part of making bone broth, letting it simmer for 24 to 48 hours. You'll want to tend to a bubbling cauldron for 2 days. Well, if you have a pressure cooker, you're in luck. We're going to add all the same ingredients to the pot, but due to its higher heat and shorter cooking time, we're going to need some help getting as much collagen and gelatin into our broth so it gels. So our secret weapon is going to be chicken feet, which are basically just pure fat and connective tissue. We're just going to trim the claws off 5 or 6 chicken feet, add them to the pot, and be sure to hang on to those chicken claws because they're excellent for freaking out your girlfriend.
Ew! Stop. So...
This is the thumb right here.
The sound is...
With this.
Like this?
Look, everything with. Oh, it's some good, clean fun. Anywho, we are likewise filling our pressure cooker pot to its max capacity, adding a wee bit of apple cider vinegar, shutting down and firing up to high pressure for 60 minutes, or as many as 4 hours if you really want to make some liquid beef. Once that's done, you ideally want to let the pressure release naturally, but I'm a little short on time. Only difference that's going to make is that my broth is going to be a little bit more cloudy. We're then going to fish out the solids for easier straining, then strain, preferably through a cheesecloth, but at least a fine mesh strainer before portioning, rapidly chilling in an ice vat, and refrigerating. And there you have it, the quickest and easiest bone broth that is currently technologically possible. But will it gel?
Oh, it's
time for the sugar. That's what turns the juice into marmalade. Which? Oh, a lot.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish, where this week we're taking a look at the marmalade from the Paddington Films and Children's Literature, for which, of course, we're going to need a whole bunch of oranges. About 3 pounds of scrubbed oranges for this recipe. Now, you can use normal navel oranges, but to make genuine marmalade, you need Seville sour oranges. These are only ripe in the dead center of winter and are a bit hard to find, but are the only way that you're going to make the tart, slightly bitter concoction so enjoyed by the Brits, Scots, and Peruvian bears alike. Seville sour oranges are different in a few ways. First off, they are positively chock full of seeds. This is a good thing for making jelly, as seeds contain lots of pectin. Second off, you will find that they are very, very sour. And that's about it. Now we're going to play a game of passing the oranges back and forth across the screen a few times, first slicing them in half and then juicing them into a bowl. By hand, of course, just like Mad Eye Moody does in the film. And we're making sure to reserve the pulp and skins, which we are going to separate using a spoon. Orange pulp and seeds are both good sources of pectin, so you'll see how we put those to good use later on. Take care not to pile your orange peels too high, otherwise you might experience complete structural failure. Then we're going to strain the seeds out of the juice and add them to the orange flesh, and then you have yourself the 4 components of traditional orange